Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Sunshine Coast Regional District Special Emergency Board Meeting of Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. Thank you for your patience as we are beginning a little bit later than our scheduled start time. I will call us to order at 2:15, and I'd like to acknowledge that the Sunshine Coast Regional District operates on the traditional territories of the Sechelt and the Squamish First Nations, and we're very grateful to be here. Just a note for anybody that is within the gallery, we will have opportunities for questions and comments at the end of the meeting. So I do see one or two hands up now, but if you could just hold those questions until the end of our session, and then we will certainly allow for an opportunity for questions and conversation at that time. We have an agenda in front of us today, and I am going to look for a motion to adopt this agenda, please. So moved, Director Toth, seconded Director Ties. All those in favor? Thank you, motion carries. Being that this is an emergency board meeting, we have no minutes and no business arising from the minutes or unfinished business, no presentations or delegations today. I will ask for a motion to receive all reports and that we have on there. So a motion to receive. Thank you, Director McMahon, seconded Director Toth. All those in favor? Thank you, and motion carries. Okay, so first up, we have on our reports, we have Annex A, pages 1 through 19 of your package, and this is the temporary moratorium on Chapman Creek water service connections, and our Chief Administrative Officer, Dean McKinley, will be presenting this. Over to our CAO, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to start by just giving a quick thank you to a few people. Yesterday was a long day. And Remco Rosenboom, Sherry Reed, Jennifer Hill, and Tina Perot all put in a tremendous amount of hours last night and this morning helping get these reports together and getting the agenda together. And I just wanted to recognize them for their efforts. Remco, I see that despite your best efforts with the stage makeup, I think I can see some bags under your eyes there. So thank you so much for all the work you did last night. The report that I've got before you for consideration, Board, is based on direction yesterday to look at the potential for a temporary moratorium on new permits within the Chapman system, and writing a letter to Minister Katrine Conroy in association with that. So we were able to dig up some previous staff reports from 2019, May of 2019, July and October, that looked at those specific issues and provided some recommendations, including some direction from the board to staff on looking at bylaw updates that would build more water conservation measures within the bylaws themselves. And some of those staff are actioning now, and some of those are scheduled for 2022. I do note that as the turnaround was fairly tight, there are a few other jurisdictions we were able to dig up in addition to Okotoks, North Salt Spring, and the municipality of Gig Harbor in Washington State, that have put some form of tying development permit issuance or permit issuance to water supply, or demonstrated ability for the development community to supply water if the municipal authority doesn't believe that the supply is there. And that's in White Rock, Tofino, Port Moody, and Parksville. Also in the late 90s or early 2000s, the Regional District of Nanaimo did something similar. So as the report and reports that accompany it lay out, there's no actual authority for local government to consider a blanket moratorium, so that staff has not included that in the recommendation. But we can certainly put together a letter to the minister that shows how important it is to move forward with the licensing on Church Road. The other thing that came out later that I wasn't able to include was I was really struck yesterday by the slide that GM Rosenboom had that showed that last week 4 residences in Sechelt that had leaks identified repaired their leaks, which resulted in 345,000 liters per day in water savings. And as we were looking at the 1,200 liters per day that is used on average per home on the Sunshine Coast, if we were to think of that in terms of building permits, let's say, the 345,000 liters that were saved daily from fixing those 4 leaks is the same as would be used by 188 homes. 188 homes at, say, an average value of 750,000, and these days on the Sunshine Coast that might be a little low, is about $225 million of development. So it would actually take saying no to 188 permits and foregoing $225 million of residential development to equal the water savings saved by fixing 4 leaks last week in Seashell, which really, it just drove home how valuable leak detection and leak mitigation is as a water conservation tool. With that, I'll take any questions you have about the report or the attachments. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, CAO. I'll look to directors for questions that you may have on the report that's in front of us. Director Toth?
Thank you, Chair. Looking at page 2, at the items that are currently within the staff work plan and what have you, at the first one, the review of the water rates and regulations bylaw 422, scheduled for 2020. Obviously, we had a few things come up in 2020 that deferred some work. I'm just wondering if there's any thoughts on when this review and update may be coming forward.
I know it's in the current work plan and is being worked on now. I don't have an update myself. I don't know, GM Rosenboom, if you have an update on this one or the next item.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Several are currently scoping the project and especially also scoping what can we do in-house and where do we need legal assistance with in terms of redrafting of the bylaw. But yeah, work is ongoing and I expect more on that to come for sure in spring 2022.
Okay. Director McMahon?
Yes, before diving into the topic, I have a slightly off-topic but pertinent question, and that is, did we get any rain in the tetrahedron yesterday?
GM Rosenboom?
The amazing amount of 2 millimeters has fallen on Chapman Lake yesterday.
2 millimeters.
2 millimeters.
Thanks. Okay, directors, any other questions? Okay, Director McMahon, back to you, please.
Okay, this is a comment. I seconded Director Toth's motion yesterday because I felt this was an important topic to get on the floor for discussion. This is one of the questions that people ask us all the time, is if we do not have adequate water supply on the Sunshine Coast, why are we allowing continued development? And it is a good question. And I'm very interested to hear that there are more precedents out there than we had realized. However, at this time, I would not want to move forward with restricting development because, first off, it's not a solution. It's a stopgap measure. And I feel that our staff resources and our money and everything else are best spent in trying to get more water online, which is the long-term goal that we have. And secondly, we haven't consulted the public about this at all. Like, to put in a measure like this without consultation with the development community would be a very drastic thing to do. So if I still think it should be on the table for contemplation, especially if we are not able to get further water supplies online before next summer. But I wouldn't be prepared to support a drastic measure at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Director McMahon. Other directors, any other comments? Director Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Unless I've got something a little wrong in my thinking, we wouldn't stop any that we'd already approved. And so if we were going to be putting a moratorium, we'd be talking about the future by the time it had any effect, we'd be in the middle of winter. So if we are considering doing this, it would be something for next year in order for it to be effective. That's my understanding of the whole process. If we did go, how long would it take? And in other words, it's too late right now for this year. I do believe that would be correct. Would staff have any comment on that?
It's probably hard to give good specifics, but I think in general, there would be, if direction was provided to staff to take that type of measure, it would be a fixed date and moving forward, and there would be tons of permits already issued or already in the hopper that wouldn't be affected by it. So you're right, it would be, it's hard to say how many potential developments would be impacted moving forward, especially because we don't know the timing of when the license might be issued. But yes, it wouldn't have any impact on all the things that are already issued that haven't started yet.
And it's also important to note, because that's very much, because we're talking very much about a very risky decision. So there's a lot there to contemplate in that. And if, as a board, we do choose to go down that, we can be very explicit in how we wish that to be written about how many or what dates, and because it'd have to be very explicit. But it incurs a significant amount of risk legally and potentially financially as well for our organization and our community as a whole. Okay. So next up, I have Director Toth and then Director Ties.
Thank you, Chair. My intention with this motion is to increase public pressure on the province to issue our church road well license. We're in a crisis situation. We're only several weeks away from being in an emergency situation. We either need more water or we need to, stop issuing building permits. We don't approve the water licenses. That's up to the province. We do approve the water supply connections, though. As I mentioned yesterday, I think, the amount of things that are in the hopper currently, and with, 4 weeks notice or 8 weeks notice, I think that by the time this could start to have an appreciable impact locally, the pressures, hopefully the pressures and hopefully the process within the province would have solved the situation by granting us the church road well license. At this point, it's less about tangible actions that we can implement right now, and it's more about making a very public and very deliberate statement to the province. Thank you.
Director Ties?
Yeah, well, I've got a number of thoughts in regards to this. One is that as staff said, fixing a few leaks will make more of a difference than building 200 homes in the next couple of years. And also in the report it says that over the last 10 years our consumption winter consumption has stayed the same, and in the summer it's actually gone down due to conservation measures, despite the development going on. So at this point, I think that I appreciate the statement that would make towards senior government. I'm not a big fan of political posturing without sort of a good rationale to back things up, though. And so I personally, I don't think I'll be in favor of voting for this measure. I do, however, want to write a letter to Catherine Conroy, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Director Tice. I'm going to go over to the corporate officer and just ask just a process question, because we did have Director Toth's motion was referred to this meeting. So once it sits as a referral to this meeting, it's It's essentially, what would be the process for bringing it back to the floor?
So it would be the same as a notice of motion essentially. And so the board may bring it forward again, move it, second it, discuss it. It can be adopted as presented, it can be amended, or it can be replaced with something entirely different. And there's also, related to that is the staff recommendation at the top of the report. So whatever the board chooses to bring forward,
Okay.
either.
Okay, thank you. And is that clear to my directors around the table on the process for going forward? I just wanted to make sure we were clear there. I'm going to go over to Director Beamish, please.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate the challenge that you've got. Town is not on the Chapman water system, so that we feel fairly comfortable. I questioned our Director of Infrastructure this morning about our water use, and we're using about 350 to 400 liters per day per person. Now that translates, based upon 4,950 people approximately, into less than 2,000 cubic meters a day. Now looking at the numbers we got yesterday, at stage 4, they're still using 13,540 cubic meters a day, which that would be 5 times our 5 times, that would be 6 times our population. And you don't have 6 times our population. So the big difference is water metering. Water metering, which enables leak detection and leak repair. And I think that's really is where the direction it goes. And conservation, we've been working at it for a long time in the town. We're very knowledgeable about what our water system is and does. But I think the movement towards metering, getting on the metering, getting the leaks repaired is really the direction for the SCRD. And I really encourage you to do that and get, it's significant numbers. I suspect our population at this time of year might even be a little higher, given the number of bed and breakfasts and short-term rentals that we have. So the actual number would be spread even further than that, but say roughly 2,000 cubic meters a day used in Gibson's for a population of almost 5,000 people. So that's the difference we're looking at here.
Thank you, Director Beamish. Over to Director Toth.
Thank you, Chair. Given that I brought this motion forward yesterday, I do believe it's important that we vote on this motion, even if it is defeated, even if we do something different, even if we do nothing at all. So I would like to move my motion from yesterday, and I'm happy to reread it if need be, but I do know that directors and staff have it at this point.
Okay, but it might be best to reread it so members of the public can hear it as well. So,
Sure.
And for the record. So please go ahead, Director Toth.
That the SCRD, recognizing the pressures that climate change and recent growth have had on our regional water supply and the delays from the provincial government in issuing a water license for the Church Road well field, implement a temporary moratorium on new water service connections in the regional water service as serviced primarily by Chapman Creek, effective September 14th, 2021, and that the SCRD write a letter to Katrine Conroy, the minister responsible for Flynn Road, outlining A, that a water license for the Church Road well field was promised expediency by the previous minister at a 2019 UBCM meeting due to the health and safety concerns around ensuring an adequate water supply. B, that climate change has resulted in challenges to our current ability to rely on Chapman and Edwards lakes and watersheds, and that additional sources of supply are urgently needed. C, that conservation alone is insufficient to meet the demands of our growing community. And D, that without new sources of water being ultimately authorized by the provincial government, the SCRD cannot in good conscience continue to accept increased demand on our strained water system. And further, that the temporary new connection moratorium stay in place until such time as the provincial government has issued the long-awaited water license for the Church Road well field.
Okay, thank you, Director Toth. So that's Director Toth's motion, and I would look for a seconder from one of the directors. I see that seconded by Director McMahon. Further discussion on this? Directors? Okay, so seeing no one in the speakers queue, And once again, this is, this not only is for the recommendations that have been presented by staff, but this is also, this is specifically also as well for the moratorium as, sorry?
Just as a clarification,
Yep.
this is for my motion, this isn't the
No,
recommendations
this
from
is not the
staff.
recommendations, but, sorry. Pardon me for confusing things. Isn't it my job? No, to not. But this is specifically to Director Toth's motion on the moratorium. So I'm going to call the question. Do you have a comment first? Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to specify voting would be A, B, D, E, F, and District of Seashelt.
Okay. Okay, certainly. Okay, so is everyone clear on voting? A, B, D, E, F, and the District of Seashelt. Okay? So I will call the question. All those in favor? Director Toth? Okay. Those opposed? Okay, thank you. So the motion is defeated. So we also have a list of recommendations from staff on page 1 of our package. Director Toth.
Thank you, Chair. Given that I did not receive support for the moratorium, I am going to move the recommendations as presented by CAO McKinley in his staff report. Happy to read them out again. I'm also going to add one more recommendation to that list. So that would be that the SCRD write a letter to Katrine Conroy, the minister responsible for Flynn Road, outlining A, that a water license for the Church Road wellfield was promised expediency by the previous minister at a 2019 UBCM meeting due to the health and safety concerns around ensuring an adequate water supply. B, that climate change has resulted in challenges to our current ability to rely on Chapman and Edwards lakes and watersheds, and that additional sources of supply are urgently needed. C, that conservation alone is insufficient to meet the demands of our growing community. And I'd like to add D, that the SCRD board will be considering further conservation measures, including a potential moratorium on new connections until such time as we are able to guarantee adequate water supply for our community.
Okay, can you read D again, please?
For sure. That the SCRD board will be considering further conservation measures, including a potential moratorium on new connections until such time as we are able to guarantee adequate water supply for our community. And this, again, is about putting the province on notice. Just because we're considering does not mean we're going to be implementing, but we are considering it.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that? I have a seconder, Director McMahon. Okay, discussion on this. Director McMahon and then Director Ties.
I could think of some more points to put in the letter, but those are I think that's the minimum number of points, and if the chair felt like embroidering on the subject considerably more, that would be great to give some idea of the impact on our community and the number of people. But we don't need it in the motion. Thank you.
Okay. And certainly I will dust off my embroidery skills and make sure that is done, Director McMahon, if this passes. Director Ties, over to you.
Yeah, wondering if we should amend the item or point B and add the environmental flow needs that were added in 2016 to our watershed. I guess I'm not sure if the wording is adequate that I've just come up with, but I think the environmental flow needs are certainly a factor in us not being able to meet our targets.
Okay, so Director Ties is proposing that as an amendment. Do I see in adding in environmental flow needs as well? Do I have a seconder for that amendment? I have that seconded by alternate Director Barry. Thank you. Discussion on that amendment of adding in our environmental flow needs. I'd look over to, I think, GM Rosenboom for guidance on that as the subject expert.
I think it would be appropriate to include it in this case in recommendation B, bar B, I would say, and that climate change and the current environmental flow need have resulted in challenges to our current ability.
Okay. Great. Okay, any further discussion on this amendment in adding in environmental flow needs under point B? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to call the question on the amendment. All those in favor, just a second, I'm just going to confirm with our corporate officer on what voting is. Is it voting all?
The voting is administration and operation of a service, so it would still be A, B, D, E, F, and District of Sechelt.
Okay, so voting is A, B, D, E, F, and District of Sechelt. Okay, thank you. Okay, so with that, I'm going to call the question on the amendment. All those in favor of adding in the environmental flow needs under point B? Thank you, motion carries. Okay, so we now have an amended motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion on the amended motion on the floor? Are we all okay? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question on the amended motion on the floor. All those in favor? Thank you, motion carries. Okay, thank you very much. Is there any more discussion on Annex A at this time? Anything from staff or directors? Okay. Thank you. So we have no communications or motions, but we do have a bylaw, which is on Annex B, pages 20 to 23 of the package. We've received this for information, and this is for Sunshine Coast Regional District Water Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw, number 422.38. So we have received the report, and we are now looking for first, second, third reading and adoption at this meeting. And this is specific to what we had discussed yesterday. And before we go into first reading, I'll go over to Director McMahon, please.
There's also a staff report. Did you want to
Do we
have
want
the
to?
staff report before we get to the bylaw?
Oh, well, I will allow then. I'll allow conversation about the report first, if you'd like. Any questions or comments on the staff report first before we go into the bylaw reading? Well, somebody has to raise their hand now. Director McMahon, over to you.
I guess I'm stuck here. I appreciate the points that staff made in the report, but I just wanted to reiterate why I think it's important that we should give a temporary exemption to registered farms. This is the earliest we've ever called stage 4. It wasn't only the earliest, but it came on a lot faster than anybody anticipated due to the extreme weather we've experienced and the very high water usage this summer. This is peak farm production season, and it's also peak income time for local farmers. We have food security issues, as we all know. We are trying to encourage local food production, and the small farms here are really struggling to survive. They are very small operations too. And while I greatly appreciate that nonprofits and local citizens have stepped up to help out farmers in their time of need, that's not quite the same thing as having an actual water supply. And these measures are likely going to have to be taken in the fall anyway. It gives the farms more time to organize the support they're going to need. The impact on the overall water supply would not be large, less, I believe, than those leaks that were recently fixed in Sechelt. So I think that we should give the farms the 2 weeks grace. Thank you.
Thank you, Director McMahon. Over to Director Toth, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was struggling with this yesterday when we were first talking about it because we have the drought regulations for a reason. These are well known. They're well known in advance. You know, what isn't known is the timing of these restrictions increasing through the stages. I know that there are a lot of businesses that are heavy water users who have invested in alternate water sources for their operations. Car washes, some of the farms. I do recognize that not everybody is able to do that for whatever reason, whether they're just starting out or whether they're struggling due to successive years of drought, whatever it might be. I did note in the report here on page 21, just about a third of the way down, that granting this exemption for farmers for a 2-week period could result in a 7-hour reduction in the availability of water for the entire Chapman system. So in the grand scheme of things, the amount of water that we're looking at here is not enough to make a substantial difference in our community usage. But it does give farmers some time to scramble to figure out alternatives, whether that's trucking water, whether, you know, that's drilling their own well. So I see that the range here is from 1.42 cubic meters per day to 60.5 cubic meters per day. So we've got farms all throughout the range of water usage here. So I will be supporting this today. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to Director Ties, please.
Thank you. And first of all, I would really like to give a shout out to the One Straw Society, Julian Burtnick and Elphinstone Aggregates, as well as Bonnybrook Industries, who've stepped up in a big way in our community and provided tanker trucks, put the organization together, and are supplying our local farm systems. I think I think that should be commended, and I think it's a fantastic initiative, and I would like to therefore just say a big thank you. That being said, I think most of these registered farms do have backups, especially the more serious ones, already in place. I hope that by providing this moratorium or the 2-week grace period, that they suddenly don't fall back on just using our SCRD water when they do have a backup that's in place that might be a little bit more cumbersome or a little bit more problematic to use. And so that's sort of my fear at this point. It isn't a huge difference, but I mean, if it's only 7 hours, then so be it. So I think I will be supporting this, but I do think that thanks to our community efforts, the nonprofits, and the preparation of those that have gone through this before, I think this measure might not even be necessary at this point in time, but I will approve of it nonetheless, just to make sure that those 16 at least are covered. I do want to make sure that it's communicated effectively that if you do have a backup, please do use it. And I also want to make sure that it's communicated that this is only for those registered farm users and not anybody that's growing vegetables. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ties. Any other comments or questions on the staff report? Okay, I'd like to give my gratitude to staff for turning this all around. I know this was a lot of work to put all of this together in a very short time period, and thank you very much for doing so. And also thank you to our farming community and our community as a whole for stepping up and supporting one another. Food security, as Director McMahon mentioned, it's a serious issue here on the Sunshine Coast. We know we need to look after that. We are in dire straits, and we've got to get some more water sources online, and while we're waiting, it's really tough to keep on asking our residents to conserve, but we need to be doing this, and but we also need to be. It's the balance of looking at all pieces of our economy and our lives here and our livelihoods here on the coast, and we are not in normal times anymore. This new normal, and as we move forward, is it's who would have thought this time last year we would have heard about the word heat dome, and it'll be interesting to see how this continues to play out. Director McMahon, I see your hand up if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, further to your comments, I wanted to mention that the last couple of years has been a real experience in finding all the holes in our planning and our policies and our systems, because so many things have come up that we just hadn't really contemplated. I went back to our 2013 Comprehensive Regional Water Plan. The word agriculture doesn't appear in it, nor does the word farm. So, we weren't prepared. Nobody was prepared for the situations that we're facing now, and we're having to do the best we can as quickly as we can. And I also wanted to say thank you to staff for stepping up this way. It's really helpful. So I would like to move first reading of the bylaw that appears on page 23.
Thank you, Director McMahon. Once again, so Sunshine Coast Regional District Water Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw number 422.38, 2021, and Director McMahon moves first reading. If I may have a seconder for that, please. Seconded by Director Toth. And once again, the voting on this is a weighted vote. It is areas A, B, D, E, F, and the District of Sechelt. So we've had first reading moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this at this time? I will call the question. All those in favor of first reading? Okay. I'm going to ask that again so you can be all very clear at the same time. No sitting on hands, please. All those in favor of first reading, please. Thank you. Motion carries. And I'm going to ask for a motion for second reading of Sunshine Coast Regional District Water Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw number 422.38, 2021. So moved, second reading, Director McMahon, seconded by Director Ties. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of second reading? Thank you. Motion carries. And for third reading of Sunshine Coast Regional District Water Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw number 422.38, 2021. So moved, third reading, please. Director Toth, seconded by Director Ties. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, we are going to move adoption of Sunshine Coast Regional District Water Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw number 422.38, 2021. So moved adoption, please. Director McMahon, seconded by Director Ties. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, so that has adopted this, the Sunshine Coast Regional District Water Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw, number 422.38. I'm going to go over to Director Rosenboom, please. Or, pardon me, GM Rosenboom. I just demoted you down to elected. Sorry about that, sir.
No worries for that. It's indicated in the report, but I would like to highlight it, especially for the farmers, potential farmers in the gallery. Farms that would like to qualify for this exemption should contact the SRD to confirm their status under the Assessment Act prior to using any other water. And they can do that by phone. It's just a quick process to confirm the status, and then you're registered in our system, and then we won't bug you with any non-compliance issues. Thank you.
The Sunshine Coast Regional District number is 604-885-6800. And that's our main line, and they will route you through to infrastructure. Director Beamish, I saw your hand up, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just in apropos what Director McMahon had said, this is the growing season for farmers, followed very quickly by the harvesting system and the marketing period. And I think that we need to put the message out there that we need to support our farmers, the farm gate, and I would really encourage everybody to do that. We have, I know my wife and I have 2 farms that we shop at regularly, and that I think this year especially, let's not leave food to dry and become unusable. So let's encourage everybody in our communities to shop at the farm gate this season.
Thank you very much, Director Beamish. That's a great point. Let's make sure that we're all shopping locally and using our, supporting our local growers and our local farms. So with that, that brings us down to, we have no director's reports, new business, or in camera. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjourn the public part of we're going to adjourn the meeting, and then we're going to go to questions from our audience. We have members of the public here in the SCRD boardroom, as well as we do have hands up on site, in our electronic gallery. So I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn, and then we'll go to questions from within our audience. So Director Beamish, seconded Director Toth. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. So first up, we are going to, I'm going to go to somebody in the SCRD boardroom. And Mary Catherine, if I could get you to move up to the microphone and turn the microphone on, and then just identify yourself and go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Director Pratt, and thank you all directors for the special exemption for registered commercial farmers with farm status. 2 weeks to hustle. Water totes are arriving. I'd like to make it clear that it's hard drawing from the municipal source, knowing that we're farming, and we are all doing our best efforts to find alternates. My own personal situation, we're on a heritage property, and we do have an old well somewhere. We're actively looking for it. $20,000, it's a high price tag for access, and that's something that we'd like to discuss in the future. Also, I am a director, I'm on the board of directors of the Sunshine Coast Farmers Institute, and it's a topic of discussion there, and they would like to, in the future, present the directors with information regarding wells and moving registered farmers onto wells. With respect to the totes, I know it came up in the conversation yesterday that you looked at the possibility of using the rainwater rebate system to help subsidize that. While I understand that's not an option, I do realize that there is an AG fund within the SCRD, and that perhaps for registered farmers who are bringing in totes, and by the way, it can't just be one, it has to be for like my operation, probably 6, because we're not anticipating any rain until October. So maybe a matching could be there. The totes, I believe, are around $200, $250 each. Maybe, so thank you for that. And then finally, in the agenda today, the second to last, in the agenda today, there was a note that said that giving the farmers an exemption might be a driver for non-compliance. I'd like to challenge that assumption. I'd also like to highlight that the SCRD communications regarding water conservation have consistently lumped commercial farmers in with residential, creating confusion. Historically, in the past, there have been SCRD water conservation, the posters that divide it into our 3 categories of 1 residential, 2 commercial, and 3 institutional, giving restrictions for each category. I would recommend that that be reconsidered as an approach so that under the residential category, it can be clear that backyard farmers, grow ops, and indoor-outdoor greenhouses are prohibited, and that registered farmers be put under the commercial category where they belong. I think that would go a long way to provide clarity, and I believe it would reduce any non-compliance that might be at risk. And finally, thank you for the time, with respect to leakers, big problem. However, and I think it's amazing that you considered a moratorium on new construction with respect to our limited water supply. I think it's really important to remember that even if leakers do want to get their leaks fixed, they cannot access labor on the Sunshine Coast because of new construction. There's at least a 3-month waiting list. So even if today you send out new notices to everybody to say you have 90 days to fix your leak or the water's turned off, they're still going, and they have all the money that they can do it, they're still going to run into a barrier. So it might be worth considering on the development application fees and fees that people pay, that there is something there to offset this lack of accessibility to construction labor by existing residential community. Maybe the SRD has to increase its staffing to provide some kind of resource, especially given an emergency situation like we're in now. So thank you so much for your consideration.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mary Catherine, and we appreciate you being here today as well. Okay. I will like to note that we have already had one registered farmer call into our main line, which is fantastic. So that's great that we've already had somebody call in to make sure that they were on the list. So I'm going to go to our electronic gallery. I have GL with your hand up. We're just going to move you into the meeting to be able to ask your question. So,
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, GL. If you could identify yourself and go ahead with your question or your comment, please.
Okay, my name is Grace, and I have a comment and a couple questions.
Okay.
And I actually had forwarded something on social media, so you may have read this already, but I'm going to put it out there to all of you. We had water running through our carport and yard for 3 years. The SCRD water guys insisted it was groundwater. We spent $10,000 on remediation, and 2 neighbors spent probably as much, if not more. This spring, it was determined that a water leak was the problem. It was fixed. Now there's no more water. This is not good enough to say you can't fix it or even determine what the problem is, because you'd be trespassing. No water affects the whole community. So now that I've said this, no water affects the community. I wanted to bottle it and use it for every place I could. There was so much water. We made ponds to feed our garden. Yes. But, the clincher here, it wasn't even our leak. It was a leak on the road above. So we spent all that money, and it was other people's leaks. I want to say that, and I want to just be really nice to you guys, because I know how hard it is right now. I grow food for the food bank. I am not included as a farmer to grow. I want to say that food that has to come by truck and with the carbon footprint that comes here, I guess I won't grow food for the food bank, and let's let it come from somewhere else. I'm not saying that everybody's doing that, but I want that to be on your, something that you're thinking about when you're talking about the problems that we have with food. Also, wait a second, I had a couple more. Greta Thunberg, she said, think like your house is on fire. Well, we do have to think like that. This is important. It really is important. Recently, there was a leak found where I have a garden, and it was using 3,500 liters per day. And the leak was found by the meter department. Now, this leak was happening for a long time. So, if we have meters, yeah, somebody should be looking at them every day and saying, hey, there's a leak there. And finally, I just want to say that if you want to find some leaks and you don't have meters at that house yet, just walk up and down the road and look at where the leaks are coming down driveways. And I would say that it's probably a leak from an old water line. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. And that's something that's interesting. Director Beamish actually brought up. I'll start with your last point first about the water going down the driveway. He followed water in the ditch a couple of days ago and discovered his neighbor had a leak in the house. So it's definitely, that is something to look at. We need to help out everyone there. And regarding any residents that is within the rural areas and does have a water meter installed, we do have, you can register with the Sunshine Coast Regional District to get your monthly reports of your water usage. And we have just under 300, isn't that correct, GM Rosenboom, that are currently, I think the number is 248 or something like that.
48, right.
240. We only have 248 residences currently that are getting that information. So there's certainly a lot more residences within the rural areas that can register to get their metered information on a monthly basis right directly from the regional district. And I do know that our staff follows up when they see patterns of high water usage. But it's incumbent on all of us to watch for our water usage as well. Director Toth, go ahead.
I just wanted to add in that the SCRD only reads the meters at a certain interval right now because they do have to be read by staff going by. They don't have automatic reporting back like your hydrometer might. If you do notice particular spots or leaking or things that might be leaks, it could be something that cropped up the day before or the day after the meter was last read. So you're always welcome to submit information into the SCRD, and I think the best way to do that is probably infrastructure@scrd.ca, and you can email that in, and staff can follow up with the property owner outside of a regularly scheduled meter reading.
Thanks for that. There's cracks in the pavement where the water's been running for a long time. So it's not just overnight. It's been there for a long time. So I forgot to say one thing about the environmental impact, the word environmental into the reading. The salmon, I haven't heard anybody say salmon in Chapman Creek today. Yesterday, yes. But thank you for regarding the salmon, because the salmon are as important to us as food for us directly. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. I'm going to look to our electronic gallery. If there's anyone else that would like to ask a question or make a comment, please raise your hand and we will bring you into the meeting to do so. I see Dave Newman, and if this is the Dave Newman I think it is our, I think he knows our Director Beamish quite well. So let's move Mr. Newman in, please, for comment. Okay, Dave, you are in the meeting. If you'd like to unmute yourself and go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Dave, go right ahead.
Thank you. Yes, it's Dave Newman, Director of Infrastructure with the Town of Gibsons, and I've heard some comments about metering, and I just want to throw my 2 bits in again. That we went from, in 2009, we went from 900 liters per capita per day down to where we're at currently, at slightly less than 400 liters per capita per day. And that was predominantly through tracking of leaks. And although water at the surface can show up, Many of those leaks go undetected because they run subsurface and never appear at surface. I was actually looking for the numbers, but the amount of water saved through leak detection that the SCRD engaged in with the meters that have been installed to date exceeded the amount of water that the town was using in Zone 3 prior to disconnecting from the SCRD water system. So I push it every time I can that the installation of meters has got to be a high priority. I understand that the SCRD has run into challenges with that, but the amount of water that can be saved is just phenomenal. And to size infrastructure based on leaking infrastructure, you know, for reservoirs, etc., is a step out of sync. And I know that I'm somewhat preaching to the converted, I believe, but maybe others are listening as well. And it is by far the best use of money. And as you mentioned, you know, the leaks can be occurring today, but they can also occur the day after you read meters. So even if you don't track those leaks immediately, ongoing leaks still show up, and we still are able to alert people to leaks that they may have on their property. So yeah, just can't say it enough. And so that's my 2 bits. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Newman. And it's also important to note that there are subtle leaks, I'm going to say, within a home, like, for example, toilets that run, et cetera, that you may not even notice and you may not even hear. And I've heard anecdotal evidence as well. And that can be hundreds of liters over a couple of days and, you know, very significant. So it's really important to look after the leaks, because that is all treated water that is going down the drain. Mary Catherine, go ahead.
Thank you. What do we do if there's a leak? Is it possible for the SCRD to put out an information bulletin about concrete steps to take? Both if there's one outside, and like the example of the toilet, I've read about something about putting dye in to see if it stays or leaves. And then what do you do? I think a lot of people who have leaks probably want to get them fixed, but there's barriers involved, and the more that those can be eliminated, especially with the help of the RD, the faster this will get resolved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Mary Catherine. And that certainly is right. I'm going to go to our GM of infrastructure, or CAO, actually. I will start with the toilet tank, like just a little bit of food dye in the tank of the toilet, and you'll be able to tell right away whether or not you have a leak within your toilet. Otherwise, over to CAO McKinley to comment as well.
You bet. Thank you for that, and thank you for the question. I just wanted to mention that our communication staff right now is actually working on a communications piece on how to identify leaks, what to do if you find a leak, that type of thing. They're also working on a news release on the exemption and bylaw just passed that'll be going out tomorrow morning. And there's a conservation campaign launching later this week looking to help people reduce the amount of water they're using. So we are working on those things right now.
Yeah. And we do have some past information that is on our YouTube channel and on our website at scrd.ca, and they both link into there. So I see Faye Kiewitz. If we could move you into the gallery, please, and go ahead with your question or comment.
Hi, I just wanted to thank everybody. My name is Faye Kiewitz, and I am the chair of the Agriculture Advisory Committee for the SCRD. And some of you know me as Tracy and Martin's daughter. I work at Henry Reid Farm with my parents. And yeah, we just wanted to say thank you to the directors for voting this through. And we wanted to also thank the staff at the SCRD, because that was a huge rush to bring out this meeting. And we're grateful that you had given us this grace period to grow our food and to come up with solutions. We're in a panic. I know Director Ties said that most established farms have already, they have backups and they've been plotting and they have backups in place, but we don't. We've tried. Certainly we've tried. We have rain barrels and holding tanks, and we have old wells we've tried to revive, and we have a shallow well we dug, and we're drip taping. We're doing a lot of different things, but it doesn't always work out. So I just want to say we're trying, and the 2 weeks is huge for us, and you're saving our season, and we're super stoked on all the community support. So thank you. Thank you to everybody. That's all.
Thank you very much, Faye. I know it'd be great if the agricultural ministry at the province would help provide some additional support too. So I'll just put that as a nugget out there that it'd be great if Minister Popham had some deep pockets to help out with this rather than crop loss, but actually help with crop loss prevention, because that's what we need here. So I'm going to look for any. I see Dave Newman, your hand is still up. I'm not sure whether or not you still wanted to speak again. Nope, your hand went down. There's last chance for anyone wishing to speak. Please raise your hand, or I see Catherine Miller. We'll get you moved into the gallery here so you can ask your question or make your comment. Catherine, there you are. Go ahead.
Thank you. I am not affiliated with farming or anything. I'm just a member of the community who's lived on the Sunshine Coast for 5 years. And I'm fairly new to this conversation around water. I've, of course, seen restrictions over the last few years, but I think we can all agree that there's been a lot of discussion on social media around this, and that's why I'm here at this meeting. And I was just wondering, what is the communications plan moving forward? To me, maybe get people planning in advance of the summer and really understanding, like, there seems to be a lot of misinformation in the community around what the SCRD is able to do and is willing to do, and do you have plans in place to help actually get the community on board with what we need to do?
Okay, thanks, Catherine. My understanding of your questions and your comments is just understanding what our communication plans are at the regional district, what our plans are going forward for water, what we've already got in place, etc. So what I will say, a lot of the information that you're looking for is on our regional district website, scrd.ca/water. I believe, is the tab that it's on. We've also got our Let's Talk section of the SCRD website, and we have a number of our projects listed on there. We're just in a nutshell, I mean, we do have a number of projects that we are working on, starting with the Church Road well project that we are waiting on licensing before we move forward. So we're waiting on the province on that. We have other test wells that we are exploring right now to bring more water on site. Conservation, of course, is part of one of the tenets of our water supply on the Sunshine Coast. There's, we've got our social media strategy. There's lots of other information out there, and we're constantly looking at other ways that we can be engaging with our public. If you look on our YouTube channel, we have a number of water dialogues on there, including the in-person ones that we did in 2019. I believe they're still up on our YouTube channel as well, and including the regular newspaper updates, and if we're missing somewhere, just let us know. Corporate Officer, over to you.
I always suggest people subscribe to the SCRD newsletter, and they'll always be up to date. It'll come to your inbox. Just go to our website and click on the subscribe button.
Yes, that's a great point. I subscribe to it myself just to make sure I know what we're doing too. So, because there's a lot of stuff that's going on. So Catherine, your points are made, and of course we are, I will say that our directors as well as our staff, whether you're within the water department or communications or not, all of our staff do look at what's going on social media and share information about everything. CAO McKinley.
Yeah, just the only thing I'd add to that on the social media piece is we're going to be working through next week, going through some of those common questions and looking at some of the misconceptions that are out there and looking to address those directly and providing factual, very succinct answers that we will be making publicly available as well.
Yeah. And I will say, you know, what is, in response to the question, what is the SCRD willing to do? Well, I'm willing to, personally, as chair, I'm willing to do anything to get us more water here because this is dire, and this is one of the reasons why I've been here is we need to have a more sustainable and diversified water supply here on the Sunshine Coast, and we've really seen that, especially this year with the heat waves, the heat dome, climate change. Just we need to move things faster and put more pressure on the other levels of government that have not yet brought approved processes and things for us. So I hope that helps with your questions, Catherine.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Raquel, if we could move you into the gallery, and please, if IT can move you in. Hi, Raquel, go ahead.
Hi, Director Lori. I just want to make it short and sweet and just give a massive thank you on behalf of the farmers and the Sunshine Coast Farmers Institute. We're grateful. I don't know if you could hear it from where you are, but there was a lot of cheers and yelling out loud from various farmers. So just short and sweet, we're grateful. Thank you. And we're trying really hard to conserve water and provide healthy food to our community. So we thank you for your support in this.
Thank you very much, Raquel. Sorry, I started to tear up there. Sorry.
Thank you, Lori. We're all feeling quite emotional from this because it just levels the playing field for farmers a little bit, and I can't express enough how grateful we are. So thank you.
Well, it's a small measure, but it's we need to look after our food here on the Sunshine Coast too. So, are there any other questions from the audience? Okay, seeing none, I guess we can close everything off. And thank you everyone for attending today. We really appreciate the conversation, and for staff for turning this around so quickly for us, and for directors for being here today. And thank you everyone, and we will see you when we see you. Bye.